and stopping people getting sick and dying. It's become a lot like civil war, when apparently we're just defending me like, Africa die! All fight amongst yourselves. Haha, we're British. That's never what we've said, right? We've explained to you that this is the most efficient way to solve the most lives. I'm going to explain that in my speech today. It's not about civil war, right? It's just not. I'll explain why. There are two things. Firstly, sovereignty, right? Not a thing in this case. And secondly, why practically this is the best thing we can do. So sovereignty. We hear from opposition, sovereignty is good. And this will set a dangerous precedent. You know, it seems quite convincing, because good and dangerous. Ooh. But then we hear, like, why? And they say, oh, because of trust. You must trust in your government. You won't trust your government if the borders are shut. Like, why, right? Presumably the government is still doing other things. We're not like the WHO come in and just being like, no government, no, anarchy, like medicine, right? Because that would make sense. Cure people. Actually, what we're saying is, in this one case, the government's not being a very good government if it's letting loads of you get sick, right? That's not being really responsible internationally if they're allowing disease to spread internationally, right? We actually have lots of precedents as to why we do this. See, the fact we send in UN peacekeepers during civil wars. We also send in troops in and bomb places if we don't like their leaders. This doesn't mean that people are like, sovereignty, not a thing, right? The point is, international relations is never about precedent, right? It's never about principles. Look at your own foreign policy. You were like, we like Saddam, we don't like Saddam, and you flip and change all the time. That aren't absolute principles, right? It's about situations. You're like, we won't intervene, we will intervene, depending on the situation, right? If the situation is that tons of people are dying, and tons more will die if we don't do this, surely you should do this, right? There's like precedence nonsense, just isn't a thing, right? It's always about pragmatically what the solution should be. They're obvious, right? You didn't bomb Libya and then we're just like, maha, and threw them across the world, right? Because we still dues of respect, sovereignty, nonsense. Okay, now to practical safety, like, how will we close the borders? How? The way you always close borders, right? We do it all the time. If you have a sea like we do, you say French, you may not come in on your boats. If it's land borders, you put troops there. Yes, people will come through, but less people will come through, and less disease will spread. We hear that doctors will get in slower, and less will be able to enter. We've told you this is untrue. We would allow doctors to come in. We would encourage them to come in. Doctors often go into countries that are difficult to get into because they want to help. It will be the same here. Secondly, we then have this argument of, no, this is really bad, mass quarantine, because you have the sick in with the healthy and that is bad. True, but it is worse if the sick mix with more healthy people, aka the rest of the world, right? Because then more people can get sick, purely on a numbers game. Then this idea that there is economic, political chaos, there is war and civil war. Like, why, ladies and gentlemen, literally, the logic we've had from opposition is, you close the borders, the government is no longer there, the rebels seize. It's like, what? Right, that's just not how it happens, ladies and gentlemen. The government can still administer all the things governments normally administer, right? Even if it's a problem that rebels are going about, we think we have all the focus of all the aid agencies in one country or just a few countries, not the entire world. Therefore, it is easier to give people food, because obviously doctors care about life, right? So it's not just solve the problem of disease, it's also you need food to live, so doctors are quite keen on that too, right, ladies and gentlemen? The point is, you can do all these things. It's easier if you enclose all of these problems. The thing of rebels saying Ebola is a scam. The reason rebels have taken hold in Liberia is because it has been chaos, because borders weren't shut, and aid agencies were panicking about having to prevent disease in all of Western Africa, Spain, and Dallas. That is harder than just small areas of Western Africa, right? It is easier to focus if there is an area to focus upon, right? Then we hear, oh no, actually Ebola is really super easy to solve. So, one person comes over to Dallas, but we can treat it. It's just about, like, washing your hands. Probably not, right? There's a reason why there is international panic about this disease, because it does kill people and it can spread. There is a reason why governments all over the world are panicking. It is easier if there is no one in your country with Ebola. Ladies and gentlemen, it is easier to treat the sick people if you know where the sick people are, and you can focus your medicine there. It is easier to keep the healthy people healthy if you prevent the majority of the sick people from mixing with the healthy people. We gave you a very simple case today, ladies and gentlemen. I know Americans love war, but we